Welcome back, Spartans. Today we're gonna take a look in the basic fundamentals of learning how the world really works, because what you've been told is most likely bullshit by our school systems, by our news outlets. So it is time you learn to understand how the world really works. So welcome, today I've got some kind of a new format because I really wanted to try this out, some kind of a presentation format, because I think I can give you more information this way. So yeah, let's find out how the world really works. And to be honest, most people are stupid, like ignorant little childs. They don't want to know the information, and most people don't really think for themselves. They think for themselves, but the government and the media is telling them what to think. If you really go into an argument with someone like this, you soon realize that they don't know shit. They are those blue-pilled motherfuckers who basically are still in the matrix, don't understand how the system works, and chances are, if you're watching this video, you are a red pill, or at least not in the sense of dating, but you understand more about the world. But there is a chance you need to learn a lot more, especially if you haven't really looked into this a lot. And to be honest, most people don't read. Reading, that's too much of a hassle. Most people don't take any courses, any seminars. And to be honest, they don't want to do the hassle of actually learning, because they went to school back in the days, and that's enough, right? I had my learning days, it's over now, I know everything. That's just such a simpleton view. You need to be a continuous learner if you actually want to learn certain things, and they basically don't want to know. They don't want to know about how the world really works, they don't want to do the hassle of finding out the right information. They are ignorant. They are ignorant of the available information, because in today's day and age we have so much information, but they don't want to know it. They don't want to know it because they think they don't need to know or anything like this. But we are different, we understand that it's so important to keep learning, and I will explain to you why it's important to keep learning in this presentation, because learning is basically the fundamental of our society. So the first step is the available. So I'm going to talk about the ancient trivium here, and this is basically a way of learning and understanding certain information, but it's basically the basis of our society. And the trivium is basically consisting of knowledge, then understanding that knowledge, and understanding it leads to wisdom and action. So the first step is knowledge. So it is all the available information. And in today's day and age, we have so much information. We have the internet, we have books, we have seminars, we have YouTube, of course. So we can't say that there isn't enough information. There's plenty of information. Back in the days, in I don't know, the year 1000, there wasn't enough information. The information that was there were like handwritten books. A society is built upon its information, and I will explain this certain viewpoint later in the presentation, but it's super important. So the opposite of information is ignorance. So this is basically, there is enough information, but you are ignorant. You don't want to look into that information, and this is a bad place to be. So available information is basically, this constitutes potential knowledge that may be gathered, processed, understood, and acted upon by individuals. So this is very interesting. Potential knowledge. So it is you who's making the decision of actually looking into this information, and you can choose not to look into that. You can choose not to look into that information, but then you are ignorant. And to be honest, I hate ignorant people, but I think you can agree with me. The second step is the decision-making processes, and basically these processes take place in the human mind and are chosen by each individual based upon available information. So this is basically the step where you have the available information, but you start understanding it, or you don't. And let me make this point. You understand something if you have all the information. You can't understand something if you don't have all the information. And this is one reason why news outlets and newspapers, for example, are pretty crap, because they will tell you what to think. They will tell you which decision to make without even having the right information. Because to understand this information, you would have to dive deep into the subject. And do you really think that just 30 minutes of news each day, where each subject is basically has 5 minutes of time, do you think you would understand something? Do you think you would truly understand some complex, conflict in just 5 fucking minutes of time? Of course not. So it is very important to understand all the information, and without understanding all the information, you can't make the right decisions. Of course, the government can still tell you what to think, but that's just fucking bullshit. And that's where I had a lot of friends who were like blue-pilled and listened to the news a lot. They didn't have the right information. They were told what to think. So when we would be in a discussion, they would tell me exactly what the news told them. And when I would actually go deeper, because I had more information about the subject, they couldn't go any further because they couldn't get into an argument, because they didn't knew the information. They only knew who was good and who was bad. And that's a bad place to be, guys. That's a bad place to be. So that's also the reason why explaining something to an outsider doesn't work. So if you have looked into certain subjects, and for example, I really like geopolitics, how the world really works, about the BRICS, OPEC, and all those kinds of things, I really like to, invest my time in that kind of stuff. So sometimes I will explain something like that to a friend who hasn't looked into that a lot. But oftentimes he just doesn't understand. He just is ignorant about it, or he just doesn't want to believe me, even if the information is obvious. But also the same with the war in Iraq, the war in the Middle East. I try to explain certain things to that the West isn't always, the good guy, But they will just be like, but there are a lot of terrorists. We have to bomb Iraq, and that's because they don't have all the information to make the right decisions. They have been told by the media what to think, but they haven't actually looked into the information which I have looked into. They haven't taken the time to actually read a few books, or taken, looked into a seminar of 9 hours. Because these are the things I do, but I cannot expect them to do the same thing, because it might not be their interest. But I think this is very ignorant of them, but I can understand somehow. So that's why this often doesn't work to explain something to a blue pillar. So yeah, don't hassle with explaining something complex to a blue pillar who actually doesn't take the time of looking into the information themselves. If you have people around you, friends around you, who actually are interested in this stuff and who are actually like reading books about it, watching YouTube videos about it, of course you can take a deep dive into the subject, because they know about the available information. They might not know about all the information, but you can explain to them. But if you have just a blue pillar who hasn't really looked into certain things, don't bother, okay? So the third step is the human behavior. So each individual's behavior is based upon the quality of their decision-making processes, which in turn are based upon the quality of their available information. So it's the third step. So if you have the right available information and you understand this information, it leads to the right human behavior. But it's also, if you have the wrong information, it leads to the wrong actions. And I will go deeper into this later. So wisdom is action. So wisdom is basically human behavior. So if you have the right information, basically the right decision making, you have wisdom, and this leads to the right actions. The lack of the right information leads to ignorance, and that's why so many people these days are in a state of ignorance. And lack of understanding is confusion. They don't understand the available information. Bad input is bad output, and this is very interesting to understand. So if you don't have the right available information, you don't you don't have the information at all, or you have crap information, which is basically like fucking up your whole viewpoint about the things, you know, you have bad output. You will make bad decisions in life, and that's where so many people these days are kept in a state of slavery, because they don't have the right information, because the news is only telling them the information they need to know. They're actually telling people, oh, don't look into that kind of thing, that's conspiracy, you don't need to do that. And that's when we see a society, you know, of people who are constantly partying, constantly destroying their own lives, because they have been told that this is the way to be happy. So bad information, because they have been told that this is okay to do. This leads to their actions. This leads to their stupid actions of actually going drinking every weekend. You understand what I'm telling here? This might be a bit complex, right? But so basically, if you have a wrong information, if you have the wrong viewpoint, this leads to wrong actions in the world. So, and this is why people these days are taking certain actions. If you actually look into the woke movement, they have been told that equality is key, that we should all be the same, and this is the information that they have been given. So they understand this information, and now they act upon this information, and that's why you see all these crazy fucking people like blocking the highways because of feminism. Yeah, it's serious. It's no joke. So, and we have a fourth step, the manifested reality. The manifested reality is the quality of the condition which manifests in any society is based upon the aggregate quality of behavior within that society. So this means the quality of a person / society is based upon the behavior of everybody. So everybody will act a certain way, and that will lead to the manifested reality of wokeism. For example, if all the available information is immoral, slavery is the result. For example, if the government is keeping people, for example, if you go to school, you know, school is basically a way of breeding obedient workers. It's not a way of actually making independent thinkers. And they are telling you that, and so this is the information you are getting at a very young age. So this will lead to you actually like not being able to think for yourself and not getting out of that system, because you are being kept poor. You don't understand how the world really works. And this leads to a lot of immoral decisions because you don't have the right information. And people who really cannot make any decisions between right and wrong in the world. And that's why people do dumb shit basically. And also a very interesting thing to understand is the society has been dissuading people from looking into certain information. Because if they would actually understand this information, they would be out of control. We would have a new revolution if they would understand how the world really worked. So people are like, this is very interesting. You saw this very clear during the COVID pandemic. You saw certain doctors, certain factions, actually being like prosecuted, by the government. They actually told people, well, don't look into that. That's conspiracy. Don't look into that doctor. He's just a conspiracy theorist. You all know Dr. Jordan Peterson, right? He has been fired from his university because of his viewpoints about the COVID pandemic. And people were basically telling that, you shouldn't listen to him because he's just a conspiracy theorist. They don't necessarily try to hide the available information, they try to dissuade people from looking into that by just labeling it as a conspiracy. And that's when people think, well, I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist, I want to belong to the group, so I'm not going to look into this. It is very interesting. It is very important to understand that if people don't have the right information, if people can't make the right decisions upon that information, they will stay in a state of slavery and obedience, because they don't know what to do. They don't know how the world works. So they give away their control to the government. They give away everything. They just tell them, well, I don't know how it works. You do it for me, government, please. So yesterday I was actually looking into a movie called Divergent, and it's a pretty common movie. It's not like underground or anything like this, but it's very interesting, this movie. There was a girl, she was a divergent. She basically was different than the other people, and the government was actually on a witch hunt to hunt out these divergents, to hunt down these people who were thinking differently than the group, because those people were a danger to their society. Thinking different is dangerous. And basically, if you have obedient people, obedient workers, they're easier to control. You are the master of your faith. This is so true. But information is the first step. Understanding, gathering the right information, actually looking into it, understanding it, and then acting upon it. It can truly change your whole perspective. For example, if you really want to be wealthy, you just have to gather the right information. And upon that, you will make the right actions in the next step. So yeah, information, it starts all with information. So don't be ignorant. Don't be ignorant. It doesn't matter what the information is. Ignorance is the root of all evil. It's a bad place to be. I had a lot of friends who were ignorant, to be honest, who were blue-pilled motherfuckers who didn't want to understand how the world works, who basically wanted to stay in the matrix. And that's what they told me, not literally, but they just told me, I don't want to know that information. I don't need to know that information. You know what I did? I just cut those people out completely, because they weren't worth my time. I really hate ignorant people now. And yeah, you can truly change your reality if you just have the right information. If you just look into it, take the time by reading books, taking a seminar, doing courses, watching educational YouTube videos, not only for fun, and stop coping, because school is not learning. If you think that, well, I'm going to school at the moment, so I don't have time, or I know enough, I don't need to know that stuff because school is telling me all these things, then you are so wrong. School is not made to make independent thinkers, to make a lot of money, School is made to produce obedient workers, an obedient population who is thinking the same. And people who are at around 4 till 8 years old are being programmed to be obedient, programmed to think the same, to be robots. So it's very interesting. It's very important that you keep learning outside of school. Don't just watch TV when you come home from school, but actually read a book, read an article, search from some educational YouTube video, and start learning how the world really works, because that will change your reality. Okay, Spartans, prepare for glory.